Okay, Gail, I'm glad you met. We have two new faces today. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, what we'll do is start with the people who usually come, and I'll just call you, and we'll go around. And just to say your name and maybe one thing you would like the two new people to know about what brings you here today, okay? So let's start with Kit. You're up in the top.
I'm from Oshkosh, and I joined it just because I thought it would be helpful and a relaxing thing and maybe give me some peace.
Hmm.
I'm in.
Great. Yes, I should tell you people that the new people that when we're done talking, we say I'm in. That way I don't talk over you. Okay. So how about Ginny and Dennis?
They're on mute.
They have their microphone muted also, so they may not realize that they're.
Yeah, I think he's trying to get it unmuted, right, Dennis?
Okay, cool.
Are we supposed to be talking?
Yeah.
Who's up?
You guys are.
Yeah, you're
I can't hear anything.
Okay, can you?
Everything went dead. I don't know why.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Okay. No, I guess not.
There.
You got it? Okay. Ginny and Dennis, can you hear
Can
me?
you hear?
You can't.
Yes, Donna.
Okay, why don't we
Go ahead.
move on
Can you
to-
hear us?
Now?
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't hear her though. So there's something with this speaker. So
Okay,
I don't know. We're trying to hook up some speakers and they aren't working. And
Sometimes with Zoom, you might have to reboot
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
to get the sound, to get your sound, to get that piece of it.
Right,
Let's do
right.
that.
Sometimes you have to
Reboot.
just reboot it. Yeah.
okay.
And then you'll get your sound. Yeah. Good point, Lisa.
right.
Thank you.
It happens to me all the time. So I know.
Okay, well, they'll come back. So let's go to Aline.
I'm Aline. I'm in northeastern Connecticut. We had 8 inches of snow over the last day and a half.
Wow.
I've met Donna in, oh my God, I guess the 70s when we were both art therapists at 2 different psychiatric hospitals.
Yeah.
And a silver lining of COVID is that she went virtual with this program. And I find this is helping with my monkey brain.
Thank you, Aline. Colin.
Sure. My name is Colin. I live in Tampa, Florida. And as Donna mentioned, she and I met on one of the Bare Necessities cruises, one of her meditation classes. Actually, that was my introduction to meditation and mindfulness. And I've taken several online classes since then, done quite a bit of reading, and of course, I'm enjoying this Zoom class. So I'm in. Thanks.
Thank you, Colin. And Maureen, welcome.
My name is Maureen. I live in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And I first met Donna when she did a retreat mindfulness class on a Saturday in Oshkosh. And kind of hooked on it now. I find it, I don't want to say addicting, but I find it something that I don't want to miss if I don't have to, because it does help me. It gives me thoughts throughout the day or later of something that we learned in class, or some thoughts or some words that I think of later that are very helpful. So I appreciate Donna in this Zoom class. I'm in.
Thank you, Maureen. And Dorothy.
Hi, I'm from Oshkosh. I got my first COVID shot this morning.
Yay.
Yay.
Out at the Sunnyview Expo. And a lot of nice people out there. I had been meditating for many a year, and then I quit. And then last fall, I think it was, Kit said she had been going to Donna's class and kind of invited me to join, and I did, and very glad that I have. So I've been enjoying meditation ever since. I recommend it.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
I'm
Deb.
in.
Carol. Sorry, Carol C.
I'm Carol. I live in Oshkosh, and I come because I just love hearing what Donna has to tell each week. I enjoy her insights and her wisdom. And it's always good to see everybody's friendly faces too.
Really is.
I'm in.
Thank you, Carol. And Carol T.
I am originally from Oshkosh. I now live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Kit actually got me involved in this. I've never done the meditation. I really enjoy it. I find it relaxing, and it's very interesting. I enjoy seeing the other people. I live alone, so it's sort of a social thing also for me. Thank you very much for this, Donna. I really appreciate it. I'm in.
Thank you, Carol. And Lisa, you're an old person now because you've been here for 2 weeks.
Okay. I missed the kind of beginning, so we're just introducing ourselves, yeah?
Yeah, so that the new people have a sense of what brings you here today.
Yeah, right. So I actually don't know any of you, and I really only met Donna virtually through a morning zazen that we do each weekday. And I decided, I'm new to meditation, maybe less than a year, and I like it, and I want to get better at it. And I asked for some help during our morning Zen, and Donna graciously, I don't even think I got done typing it, and she had already volunteered to kind of, informally soft mentor me. So that included an invite to this group, and it is, I think, my third time, and I enjoy. Everybody just seems really friendly, and I'm coming in from Elverson, Pennsylvania. So I'm borderline Amish country out here, live on a farm, and I am snowed in. I mean, I don't even think if I wanted to get to the road, I could do it right now. So, we're drifted shut. I think we've had probably maybe close to a foot. So, it's me.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay. And Ginny and Dennis.
Yeah, Lisa, I think our snow's coming Saturday, Sunday. We're supposed to get a foot, 8 to 12. So that doesn't sound good. But anyway, I'm Dennis. I've been coming to the Oshkosh one for 5 years. I did it about another 3 or 4 before that. In a different place we lived. And I pretty much do it to try to curb my short temper and my anger and frustrations, and try to give me a more peace in my life. So
I'm the other half, and
the better half.
Oh yeah. Started meditating when I was going through a depression about 8 years ago, and actually went to a class, and that's what got me hooked. And when we moved from Northwest Wisconsin, my one big fear when we moved to Oshkosh was, where am I going to go? Will I get a teacher as good as the one I had? And we have been blessed because Donna's just been the perfect fit, and she's so altruistic and inspirational. So I use it for emotion regulation, to try to keep me from going down in a depression.
We're in.
I'm in.
Thank you. And next week, I'm thinking we're going to do working with emotions during meditation, by the way. It'll be much more practical than what we do today.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now a couple of the new people. Which one of you wants to go first, David or Gail? Either one. If you raise your hand.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Gail.
Go,
I'm
Gail.
Gail from Oshkosh, and yeah, I think the little bit of snow we were supposed to get already got. So
Okay.
just like an inch and a half or something. So I guess we kind of lucked out there so far. But yeah, we're snow here. But yeah, I looking forward to this class. I've been to other similar classes. There's a library out of around Los Angeles area that I just happened to find out about. So I do enjoy going to that one.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Gail. And David.
You're in. Hi, I'm David Starr. I live in Maple Shade, New Jersey, which is right next to Cherry Hill, right across the river from Philadelphia. And I started doing mindfulness 15 years ago in New York City when I was working there. And I find that it's a tremendous opportunity for me to just calm down and be still. And so I really appreciate that Donna, who I met on a cruise, is doing this. And I've wanted to join it for a couple of months now, but when I found out about it, but I've been working on Monday and Tuesday, so it's very hard for me to do it on Tuesday afternoon. And I got my flu shot, the COVID-19 shot, last Thursday or Friday, so
Hey.
got my first one. So I'm in.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all for checking in. And I'm just really delighted to see all of you here today. So let's talk about any questions that anybody has about what we talked about last week, which was about the 4 faces of love or the 4 divine abodes. Anything that anybody wants to bring up or questions about that? Okay. You can always bring it up later too, or email me, you know that. So we talked about the 4 phases of love, which are really love or loving kindness, joy, compassion, and equanimity. And the joy of selflessness, of finding joy in others' good fortune, right? Today, what we're going to do is look at a more expanded perspective of selflessness, which is not just serving others, okay? So, and it's really a perspective, sort of like, it's not really a belief, but it's more of a way of looking or exploring, let's say, yourself and the world, okay? It's based on the idea that we arise out of causes and conditions, that we're all interconnected, okay? So, and it becomes a little more clear when we look through the lens of impermanence, that everything arises and passes away, including us, right? And that everything is dependent on causes and conditions. So, in other words, we are sort of dependent arising. I just got a message from Robert, but it went away. He looks like either he's coming or he's not to the class. Anyway, so in other words, we humans are a process of multitude of causes and conditions. And as neuroscience and biology and psychology have really affirmed, that the self is relational and interconnected with everything else. So, and one of the ways of looking at and getting more of a sense of that perspective of selflessness is to use the metaphor. It's sort of an updated metaphor. The Buddha used the idea of a chariot. So I'll update it and use the idea of a car. If you take a car and you spread out, take it all apart and you spread out all the parts all over the floor, is it still a car? Yeah. So it's the same idea of we are a bunch of parts: thoughts, emotions, sensations, beliefs, our biology, our bodies, all a bunch of parts. So the idea that there's no self in there, no inherent self-existence. Okay? So it's a different perspective of looking. And I'm going to ask people maybe to all mute yourself so we don't have background noise. Thank you. Okay. So the idea of no self. And it's part of the 3 marks of existence, is what the Buddha called it: the impermanence, selflessness, and unsatisfactoriness. Okay. So The idea is that you recognize, as they say in the secular Buddhist website, I'll quote them, I like that when we recognize the selflessness or these three marks of existence, that loosens our clinging to our thoughts, our emotions, our ideas, and the idea of a, quote, real you, that our interaction in the world becomes more fluid and dynamic and responsive rather than reactive. Okay. So in other words, rather than clinging to some kind of static idea of who we are. So for example, when a difficult emotion arises, instead of saying, I am sad or I am frustrated, we can say with some distance that sadness is arising or frustration is arising. Okay. And we can practice that while we're meditating, and it does take time to be able to gain that distance, sort of stepping back from identifying with all of our thoughts and emotions. Now, I'm not there, and that's why we practice in meditation, so that we can take it out into our daily life. So I'll have to use this example. The other day, we rescued a dog, right? And I had trained him not to go into my bathroom because I didn't want him tracking in, or the dog's tracking in dirt on the 4 rugs that I have in there. And 2 nights ago, he snuck into the bathroom and peed on my favorite rug. Well, I was very tired and I got very angry. And so I pick up the rug and I'm carrying this heavy rug full of his pee. And how could you do this? I'm so mad. I thought I had trained you not to go in the bath. I thought you hadn't peed in a month in the house. I thought I had trained you. Oh, God. So anyway, I was not in the selfless mode at all. I mean, I was attached to my rug, my bathroom, myself, my poor training, bad dog, anyway, it was a lot of me, and my. So being able to say, oh, anger is arising. Now I need to stop and look. But at any rate, the next day, because I was tired, I ended up going to bed pretty early that night, but the next day during the virtual Zendo, where we sit and meditate, I decided, okay, I'm going to sit with my feelings of anger at this dog. And what was interesting is immediately the anger turned into sadness. Immediately. Because usually when we look at anger, underneath it, it's usually deeper. It's a little sadness or fear. But anger is sort of a top kind of emotion. At any rate, and so it brought up a lot of sadness, and there were like layers of difficulty, like here's a rescue dog that I wish I hadn't rescued. And how do I deal with a sneaky dog? And now I'm going to have to take him to a behaviorist to learn how to deal with a sneaky dog. And then what comes up is remembering the Dalai Lama saying, if you want to become enlightened, then you shouldn't have very many activities or too many activities. So then then it's like, oh my gosh, and I have so many things to do. How do I maintain open presence with a very huge to-do list? Now I'm adding to it because I'm going to have to figure out taking him to a behaviorist. So if we looked through the lens of selflessness, then the actual cause of my suffering, as I said, is sort of my labels of I and me. My rugs and my bathroom, my poor training, all that. So being able to practice and looking at that sort of selflessness helps us also gain a sense of equanimity. And equanimity is that where we're not grasping at anything and not resisting anything, just open presence. So in other words, from the purpose of, let's say, emptiness. In other words, empty of any self-existence, okay? Permanent self-existence. From that perspective, then, the example I used, it was just simply that a dog had peed on the rug and that I need to watch it more carefully and spend more time training him, and perhaps start thinking more about finding a good home for the dog. Anyway, although I think I need to train him better before anybody would want him. Anyway, so the idea then is, and one of the ways that we can practice that is through practicing a meditation on how connected we are and interconnected we are. So why don't we do that now? Spend some time just practicing guided meditation on interconnection, okay? So let me make sure everyone is muted, yeah? And I'll start with ringing the bell. So if you want to get yourself into a comfortable, alert yet relaxed position, and you may want to turn down the lights in your room to feel more comfortable, or you can turn off your camera, whatever feels right to you, whatever works for you. So begin by just checking in, by taking a few moments to arrive and settle in, by bringing your awareness to your mind and your body, perhaps asking, where is my mind right now? How is my body right now? Just acknowledging how you're feeling and then letting it be. And then gently shifting to mindful breathing. Just being aware, breathing in and out. Noticing that the body breathes itself. And as we inhale the rich air, rich in oxygen, and exhale air rich in carbon dioxide. You might want to take a moment to imagine inhaling through all the pores in your whole body. When you inhale, all the air around you coming into the body. And when you exhale, the air going back out into the room that you're in. Feeling the connection of the air inside and outside. Just take about another minute to sit with that. The trees and the vines, all the green, shrubs and grasses, all breathing in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen back into the environment. The green world and our lungs, as long as they're both viable, keeping each other alive. Sharing the air with all life. recognizing that our body is made out of the earth and water and air, temperature and motion. Recognizing our relatedness to all life. Our being a small part of this planet and something much larger. Without any choice on our part, our bodies are part of the world happening. And the world is part of our bodies, continuing. Nothing separate. Our own life is part of all life. So where is the self? Just putting that question out and not letting the mind try to answer it. Just sit in the space of letting your body kind of answer you. Your intuition rather than your concepts. So everything about us is in constant change, from the trillions of cells that make our body to the multitude of processes that create thoughts, and emotions and reactions, and beliefs. So we're a work in progress. Full of processes. And then shift your attention to where you're seated. Begin to feel the connection of your body on the chair or cushion, and whatever is supporting your body. Feel its connection to the floor. And reflect on the connection of the floor to the building you're in and its connection to the earth farther below. And then let your awareness expand to include the earth below you. Feel that sense of being held by the earth below you. Just allow yourself to be held by the earth. Feel how the earth rises up to hold and embrace you. Nothing more you need to do, nowhere you have to go, no one you have to be. Just being held in the heart of kindness. And then bring to mind someone that you would hold in this way. Reflect on your loved ones being held in the same way. with safety and ease of body and mind. Reflect on how the earth holds all beings, whether they are acquaintances or strangers or difficult ones, with no bias, no discrimination, no separation. Reflect on how this earth holds all beings, forsaking none, whether they be small or large. And then recognizing how the earth does not exist in a vacuum, that it's connected to a solar system and vast universe. We're all interconnected. Our bodies and the earth, the sun and the stars, all composed of the same matter, same basic particles, joined in different ways. Feeling into that sense of connection and interconnection, that we're all made of stardust. And feeling that sense of being home within your body and mind, with a true sense of belonging and connection. And return your attention to the breath, just breathing in and out, feeling the grace of this universe. No isolation, no separation. Feeling that sense of connection and interconnection, and being at home in your being. Nothing to do, nothing to get, nothing to push away. Imperfectly perfect as you are. Resting in the heart of this universe. And now let well wishes form. May all beings, here and everywhere, dwell with peace. May all beings here and everywhere dwell with peace. And I'll end the sit with the bell. See if you can follow the sounds of the bell into silence. So, Does anybody have anything they want to share about that exercise? Dorothy?
Just a wonderful sense of peace and well-being. Feels good.
Anyone else? Okay. So I've hesitated for a while. And this is the first time I've really talked about selflessness, excuse me, and emptiness. But when I heard that when I read that there was a study at the University of Derby in the UK on emptiness, and they compared emptiness and mindfulness, I thought, okay, good, now I can talk about it. What was interesting about it is that the emptiness meditation showed a greater reduction in negative emotions than the mindfulness meditation. Very interesting. Now, the people that they recruited for, the participants, all had to have been practicing meditation for 25 years. Eventually, they plan to work with novices, but at this point, they worked with people who had practiced for 25 years. And the emptiness meditation consisted of concentration, which is the best way to start, of course, and then also investigative meditation. And I'll read to you what they said. It involves searching for an existing self and examining the underlying nature of experience, and then transcending the conceptual boundaries, such as space and time. I'm not sure how they did that. In other words, in order to obtain a universal, far-sighted outlook rooted in compassion. Now, I tried to find the script that they used, but I was not successful. In the past, when I've done this and I've written to the authors, I usually get a response pretty quickly, but usually not from the head author, only from one of the other people who are leading it. The head authors kind of say, "Yeah, right. Read the study." You know. Anyway, yeah. you're smiling, Lisa, like you know how that works. Yeah. Anyway.
They're busy.
Yeah. So. At any rate, the results showed, that even though the participants had already shown or demonstrated a high level of well-being and spiritual insight, meditating on emptiness led to a 24% reduction in negative emotions, a 16% increase in compassionate feelings, and a 10% reduction in attachment to themselves and their external experiences. So, they go on to say that the findings also showed that participants experienced emptiness as an underlying fabric of the mind and reality. Okay. In other words, they felt that the nature of reality is not as concrete as people generally think. In other words, sort of the lightness of being, or the unbearable lightness of being. Yeah. So, in terms of the self, Richie Davidson, in his book, he and Dan Goleman, Dan Goleman's the author of Emotional Intelligence, and in their book, Richie Davidson is a researcher at the University of Wisconsin, the founder of the Center for Healthy Minds. Anyway, they got together. They both were at Harvard at the same time many years ago. So they become friends, and they both wrote this book. And in his book, there's actually a chapter on how the brain creates a self. It's kind of fascinating. It's called Altered Traits. That's the name of their book. So in terms of looking at the self, let's say that when it's usually not very strong. Let's say when we are fully engaged in an activity, so the sense of self or the sense of separation from the world diminishes. Aline, you're shaking your head because you're an artist, so you know. Get totally involved, yeah, and lose your sense of self. The sense of self is entirely gone when we're sleeping. And it also, if we start to look now at just before you fall asleep, the sense of self is gone. And just when you first wake up, the sense of self is gone. And then we go, oh, yeah, there's my to-do list. Yeah. So start to look for those moments of selflessness, because we don't often notice them. And if we pay attention with a very calm mind, then we become more and more familiar with those moments of selflessness. So, emptiness. Jack Kornfield describes it this way, quote, "We experience it when we see that our existence is transitory, that our body, heart, and mind arise out of the changing web of life, where nothing is disconnected or separate. The deepest experiences in meditation lead us to an intimate awareness of life's essential openness and emptiness, of its ever-changing and unpossessable nature." So everything, including ourselves, is always changing and dependent on causes and conditions.
Donna,
Yeah.
your image has frozen and your
Okay.
image is back.
Okay. So where did you last hear? Could you hear it all?
Yeah, but it was broken.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna skip it anyway because I don't think it's that important anymore.
Okay.
That part, and I'll go on to really talking about. I really like looking at the idea that we arise like a wave out of the ocean, but we're never separate from the ocean. Never separate from the ocean of life. We're all one. Yeah. David?
I have to leave now,
Oh,
but
okay.
thank you very much for this time today. And I really appreciate what you're doing here.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope we see you again.
You will. Right. That's
Thank you. So, okay. So what I want to do now is because it becomes more and more clear when we meditate as our meditation deepens. Okay. So stage 1 of meditation is we're just dealing with our monkey mind. Okay. The Buddha called what do I want to say? Ordinary mind, monkey mind, that it's like a bunch of drunken monkeys jumping from branch to branch, So all we're doing is watching our mind and getting familiar with how the mind works, and training our attention and always bringing it back. So it's very simple in the beginning. Stage 2 in the meditation, though, as it deepens, we begin to see how fast things change. We pay attention to our emotions and we see that they last for only a few seconds if we're just paying attention to them and not adding stories to them. We pay attention to our thoughts and then we see that they come and go uninvited like clouds. And we pay attention to our body and we see its boundaries are porous. So we kind of did a little bit of that during the meditation, imagining the oxygen coming in through all the pores. So as Jack Kornfield says, that it's the sense of solidity and a separate body or a separate mind starts to dissolve. And then suddenly we find out how much at ease we are. So at stage 3, then the meditation deepens and we experience a sense more of expansiveness, a sense of delight and freedom. So because we're kind of living with that sense that we're all interconnected, sort of interconnected with that great mystery of life. So in the book by Jack Kornfield called A Path with Heart, he says that one hospice director experienced this interconnection as he sat with the children of a dying 65-year-old man outside his room. They had just received the news that their father's younger brother had been killed in a car accident, and they were struggling with the idea of whether or not to tell him. So their father was close to death, and then they were afraid that it would upset him, so they decided not to talk about it. Then, as they entered his room, he looked up and said, "Don't you have something to tell me?" And then they were looking at him like, "What?" And he said, "Why didn't you tell me my brother died?" And then, of course, they were astonished, and they asked him, "How did you find out?" And he said, "I've been talking with him for about a half hour." So, and then their father said, he called them to their bedside and he spoke some last words to each child. And in 10 minutes, he rested his head back and died. So I know I get goosebumps every time I think about that. So that the healing, Jack Kornfield goes on, says, healing comes in touching this realm of non-separation. That we discover that our fears and our desires and our attempts to enhance and defend ourselves are based on a delusion, a sense of separateness that is fundamentally untrue. So we sense that everything is intertwined and in continuous movement, arising in forms that we call bodies or thoughts or feelings, and then dissolving or changing into new forms. So when we look with this kind of perspective, which some call wisdom, that then we recognize that we're living in another changing oneness of life, right? Open to one moment and the next. Now, I think that will take a lot of time meditating. And in, I think, chapter 8 of Altered Traits, the book I was just mentioning, they described some of the studies they did with yogis that had been lived in caves for like 12 years and practiced meditation for 10 hours a day. I don't think any of us are ever going to get there, but it feels like, well, maybe if I practice hard enough, because what happens in their brains is that the gamma waves, which are neural circuits that only fire when we have a sense of insight, or we look at a beautiful painting or a gorgeous sunset, it's usually a fifth of a second that those gamma waves last, because they're the fastest brain waves. In those particular yogis, they'll last for like a minute, and they even happen when they're sleeping. And so that, in other words, they see that as a neural correlate to their state, that their experience of life is vast openness at all the time, pure, beautiful awareness. So at any rate, if you practice long and hard, I'm going to talk with my Zen master Jimpo and find out what I have to do to get there. He'll just say, go back to your cushion. But anyway. Okay. So how much time? We've got a little bit of time. And I thought that another way that we can work with the sense of emptiness, and we're going to do more of this next week too, is Shinzen Young, who's the founder of the Unified Mindfulness that you've heard me talk about. Talks about the power of gone. We usually recognize when something arises, but we don't recognize when it's gone. So like doing a meditation where if you notice, to be right on the edge to notice the instant something is gone or something changes, which really makes you much more alert. But and then there's a lot of good reasons for it. So rather than spending a lot of time going into all those reasons, and we'll go over some of that next week too, but to actually practice some of the being in the body and feeling and using the sensations, just sensations, not thoughts or seeing or hearing, but just sensations in the body. And then also, so feeling when the body relaxes and feeling rest, and then also feeling when it's gone, okay? So let's just take a few minutes to practice that. So just get into a comfortable position, alert, and just bring the attention into the body, straighten your spine, relax the shoulders and the jaw. And just feel what it's like to settle into this posture. Ideally, your posture is a balance of effort and ease, relaxing wherever possible, but holding your spine long and remaining alert. And then allow your attention to move through the body at whatever pace is comfortable for you, your attention freely floating, moving around in whatever direction it's drawn. And noticing what's going on in the body right now. Whether there are physical sensations, or whether you notice that you're primarily relaxed. Noticing if there are emotional sensations, or whether you're experiencing emotional peace. From the perspective of practice, there's no preference. You're just developing concentration, sensory clarity, and equanimity. So if what you're noticing right now is unpleasant, bear in mind that you're strengthening your skills. And if what you're noticing in the body is pleasant, do your best to yield to that experience and enjoy it, whether it's active or restful. Doing your best to soften around your experience. Loosening and relaxing any muscles that you can. And just letting the experience flow. Letting it get as big as it wants to get, or noticing where it's located, what the intensity is, whether it spreads or stays local. And this can be true in an active or restful state. And noticing disappearances. Even moving your attention from one place in the body involves a disappearance of what you were formerly noticing. See if you can catch that. And if you'd like to use labels, you can note with labels like feel or feel rest and gone. And remember, it's fine to re-note. If you can detect relaxation and you'd like to stay with that experience, for example, you can just rhythmically note rest, rest, rest. And if the mind wanders, see it as an opportunity rather than a problem. To acknowledge and appreciate that you noticed that the mind was gone. And then bring your attention back to whatever you were focusing on. So anytime your attention wanders into thinking, for example, or distractions, sounds in the room, just gently bring your attention back to the body. And maybe notice what impact the distraction might have on your experience in the body. In this way, the distractions can deepen your experience of your objective focus. So distractions are never a problem. They may be challenging, and you might have reactions, but that's just part of strengthening your skill Feeling rest or active or gone. And now, as you transition from this meditation, check in with yourself and see if you feel any different than when you began. See if you notice any positive rewards, however subtle. Maybe feeling a bit more grounded or focused or relaxed. So just getting into the habit as you transition out of practice to noticing how you feel as a result of practice. And acknowledge yourself for doing this work. It can be challenging, especially in the beginning phase. I'll end with a quote by William Blake. To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. And I'd add in a moment. And I'll ring the bell to end the sit. Thank you for meditating with me. So, anybody have anything to share about that particular, or any questions about that particular meditation?
Donna, could you read that last sentence or two again?
Of the
Just
quote
the very end.
of the meditation.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sure.
The Blake poem.
Yeah, the poem.
Oh, the Blake poem. Oh, of course. Thank you. To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour.
Thank you.
Pleasure. So, does anybody have a plan for any changes in your practice? Having done a little bit of this?
Well, I think I have to process it a bit. There's so much that you shared, Donna. Thank you. I took some notes, but kind of sitting through each of them. First of all, your voice is amazing because it just calms me right down.
Oh,
and I don't think I fell asleep, which is a good thing. But I just felt really incredibly relaxed. But I'm struggling with selflessness because I kind of just think I found myself. So, but that's okay because it's all connected. So
yeah, it is.
That'll be some good stuff to circle back to my labels.
Me and mine, me and me. Yeah, maybe next week we'll do a little bit more talking about how the brain creates a self, because it's kind of interesting.
I would be fascinated with that because, like, where did the self come from, right? Yeah. We all have a self.
Sure. Right. We think we exist, and we do, relatively. But yeah, it's in other words, again, it's not a belief. It's really just a way of exploring who you are. and what the world, who you are in the world. Ginny, you've probably done some of that with the Mondo Zen, right? Yeah. So, Carol?
I thought it was very interesting when you talked about selflessness stopping when you go to sleep.
Mm.
And then it starts when you awake. But then I was wondering, how do dreams come into that?
Yeah, I think when you have REM dreams, then there's more of the self in there. But when there's the deep sleep and there's no dreaming, then there's no self.
Okay,
No sense of self. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's fascinating because I was up really early this morning, about 3 a.m., and I debated, should I go back to sleep or not? And I was tired, so I kind of forced myself. And I just had the wildest dream that, I mean, I had to get up and write it down because I need to like deal with it. So I'm also kind of fascinated, like, because I've heard dreams are you're trying to work out in your like
Yeah.
subconscious the things that you can't work out or understand in your conscious waking.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know where that kind of fit in, and then it was just mentioned, so that's kind of fascinating. I didn't know if there was a place for dreams in our meditation work.
I'll talk to you about that in just a moment. I just want to make sure that since it's 3 o'clock or 3:02, I don't want to keep people. So if you need to go, please do. But I'm gonna, I guess not. Okay, so I'll just share with you. If you're interested in, there's a book by Eugene Genlin called Let Your Body Interpret Your Dreams. And that really gives you much more clarity about, rather than letting your mind make up stories about it. Let your body tell you. Yeah. So it's called Let Your Body Interpret Your Dreams. Yeah. By Gene Genlin. Anyway. Eugene Genlin, Gendlin. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Well, thank you all. Have fun fooling around with yourself, getting to know yourself, and you're not self.
Nobody's ready to go, Donna.
I see that. I know. It's wonderful. Oh, I'm loving you all.
Thank you.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Namaste. Love you.
Thank you. Thank you. Love you.